Hello, everyone. As AJ stated, my name is Dean Qureshi, and I'm one of the lawyers with Local Driver Co-op. I'm the in-house lawyer, so I cover a lot of different issues that come up. I've had a chance to review all the details, and I've spoken with AJ, Danny, and Edward, the current CEO. Let's start from when we first announced the Local Driver Co-op in September 2018. Later that year, we met Edward Escobar, founder of the hashtag Drivers Unite movement and the Alliance for Independent Workers, co-author of the Gig is Up Act. As soon as December 2019, we announced the bill on Capitol Hill, together with Congresswoman Deb Haaland and Alex Lawson, head of the Social Security Works. The Gig is Up Act was an historic moment in requiring large corporations to recognize gig workers as employees and provide them with the full benefits they have earned, requiring the corporations to pay employer and employee portions of the Social Security and Medicare taxes. Also, in December 2019, we were invited to announce the Local Driver Co-op on Bloomberg BNN. It was in February 2020 that we first met Torsten. Now, while in the background, at the same time, we were already developing the platform applications and working on the legals both in Canada and the US, in order to meet the foundational needs of our initiative. A few weeks later, we were proud to announce Torsten as the CEO of the Local Driver Co-op. Very quickly, through Torsten's videos, we were able to get the word out, and over time, we definitely benefited from thousands of drivers signing up on the platform. In January 2021, we were featured in Now magazine in Canada. They shared this article. We then signed an initial contract with Torsten in January 2021, including a non-compete clause and compensation of $10,000 payable to Torsten if the project did not get funded with adequate capital to launch its initial operations in California and Toronto, Canada by August 1st, 2021. Torsten's compensation contractually included equity in the co-op along with dividends. And for every driver he brought on, Torsten insisted on additional exclusive payout from the drivers when they would sign up and pay the membership fee. Now, to date, Torsten is the only co-founder in the co-op who has ever received compensation. Even though we were still in the height of the pandemic, making travel and fundraising virtually impossible, we continued to work diligently to acquire funding. However, it wasn't long after August 1st, 2021 deadline that Torsten demanded his $10,000 payment. Otherwise, he threatened to put out videos in an attempt to destroy us, our mission, and discredit our vision. And this was never part of our original conversation. Now, AJ, Danny, the whole team, we always honor our agreements. And we paid Torsten upwards of the $10,000 we had contractually committed to over the course of the year, with the final payment amount of $8,000 being paid to him in November 2021. And that came with the help of another passionate founder, willing to do what it takes to make our mission a success. Torsten's threats played no part in us honoring our agreement. However, it did raise some eyebrows. But we continued to work with Torsten, hoping to be back on track and still working for the best outcome for the co-op. To solidify our positive direction forward, the next month in December 2021, Torsten signed as a shareholder in the mother company, Direct Global, Direct Co-ops, making him an equal co-founder of Local Driver Co-op with an equal number of shares as the rest of the co-founders, including AJ and Danny as well. This agreement came with a non-compete clause and was signed by Torsten on December 23rd, 2021. We've shared the agreement here for you to take a look at. It wasn't until late 2022, with the first app, Direct Local Eats, being completed and revenue coming in, that we were in the most opportune position to seek investment, allowing us to take things to the next level. With the help of many of our co-founders, and about 7 months of very hard and diligent work, we got the initial business plan completed so we could then build the investment deck. By last summer, 2023, we had everything ready and actually ranked third at Collision, the second largest tech conference in the world, getting us on the path with Anderson Horowitz, one of the top venture capitalists on the planet, and he's part of the group that took Lyft public and then exited. Although Torsten had generated a lot of interest from drivers, The reality was less than 20% of the driver signups were actually complete. We asked Torsten to make an imperative video to address the drivers that had signed up partially without completing all their info, both to demonstrate to our investors that our memberships are complete and to also properly benefit from the interest that he generated. Unfortunately, Torsten did not create that video. Now, by September 2023, when Fair Eats was officially ready for the USA, it was critical we let our drivers know. We asked Torsten to please let all the delivery drivers know, but unfortunately, nothing was done. Even though Fair Eats did not need any special insurance or any special licensing in any state in order to operate. We could have launched the food delivery last September, but again, our communications to Torsten fell on deaf ears. Now, generally, the team felt that the reason why Torsten wanted to wait was so that the rideshare side of things were ready to launch, because the vast majority of his followers are drivers and not delivery people. Over the next few months, and after getting more feedback from Anderson Horowitz, we were informed that although 50,000 deliveries we had completed on direct local eats was impressive, especially with no chargebacks, with the value of those transactions being only 5% of the delivery fee, which comes to about 35 cents per delivery, this translated to only making about $7,500 in net profits. Now, this was not enough to justify any reasonable valuation from the VC, and we needed to demonstrate the ride-hailing side, where an average of about $30 per ride with 50,000 rides, this would result in $1.5 million in gross sales, getting us in the ballpark of the evaluation that we wanted. We explained all of this to Torsten and reiterated it again on January 29th, 2024, when we first met him in person at a dinner in Los Angeles, which he graciously paid for. We also shared with him how significant our investments had been into the co-op mission, both in cash and in kind from our co-founders group, totaling well over $3 million, with $1.4 million in cash spent on development, legals, and operations. If not for the other amazing co-founders that passionately devoted their time to the vision, those costs would have been much, much higher, and we would have never been able to get this far. Our only option at that point was to go ahead and pay for the California TNC license and the general liability insurance, but we were still missing the state insurance in order for us to start the rideshare side, which at that time required $56,000 to start the policy and about $4,000 to $5,000 per month, which we did not yet have. As we had already gone as far in debt as we possibly could, and the other co-founders had contributed as much as they could, that funding had to come from another source. In fact, on January 29th, Torsten made a video where he really lifted us up on a pedestal for the commitment and the investment that we have made, even explaining our shortcomings with the investors. Because even though we had invested all this money and all this time, the mission was to create a cooperative that is majority owned by the drivers, and most investors like to be able to control whatever they invest in. He even offered, knowing the amount of debt we've taken on for the cause, to sell one or two of his muscle cars for $70,000 or $80,000 in order for us to get over that last hump. We never rejected his offer and acknowledged it wasn't just a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we've already put in. And we're going to share the video here for you to take a look at if you'd like to.
Let me give all drivers and food delivery drivers an honest update on the FARE Co-op, F-A-R-E, the co-op out of Canada, Toronto, Canada, that I have been working with probably for about 5 years. Now, I've recruited 30,000, maybe 35,000 drivers for FARE, and I followed their entire journey. And because this is a co-op, which obviously needs funding to go out there, make a noise happen, pay the programmers, etc. You got to go out and start talking to investors. So for the last 2 years, both AJ and Danny, the people that founded FARE, they went out there and pitched this, and it got a lot of interest. But what turned investors off is that how do they invest into a co-op when they can only maybe get about 20% shares and the rest really goes to drivers? That's what a co-op is all about, right? And I can tell you myself, it's been a frustrating journey. I've read the letters, I've read the replies from VCs, from angels. Venture capitalists usually want to take control of your model. They want to have the majority shares, right? Angel investors, you offer them 20% and just, not interested. The other 80% controlled by drivers. What? The founders are here. I had dinner with them last night. And to the point, do I put in a third? Do I go and sell one of my classic muscle cars, or two cars and raise $70,000, $80,000 that I personally put in to make this work? And I said to the gentleman, they're going to be out here for 3 weeks. They're meeting with other money people. They're meeting with tech people. I said, listen, I know we can make this happen. I know we can get $200,000 to $250,000 together. I'm in. But I feel that with the contacts that we have and with the energy that we have, we can collectively make this happen. And I would feel quite comfortable putting 1/3 of my money into this and say, hey, let's give it a 1-year try. Let's just see what happens in 1 year in California. If we can generate enough drivers, enough revenue, keep drivers happy with their earnings.
We then returned to LA to meet Torsten and prepare for the Valentine's Day strike. We had a great experience meeting the LA leaders and connecting with them, and things were feeling positive. In our communications after coming back to Canada, Torsten made the suggestion that maybe the best path for us was an angel investor, and he gave us 2 names of angel investor groups, like AngelList, which we reached out to in addition to 5 others, as we still needed that $56,000 for the insurance, and he did not sell any of his cars or provide 1/3 of his wealth, which he also mentioned in the video. It became very clear that even angel investors didn't quite understand how to invest into a company that only has 20% stake in the federation. And for us to qualify for investment, we would need to show a lot more revenue. Shortly after that, Yoshi, our groundbreaking video production master, had finished the video about the protest, which we paid for, and Torsten thanked him for it with great praise, and you can see that here in the text messages shared. Torsten then asked us to set up a website for the April Fool's protest called Global Driver Movement, which we gladly paid for. Then Torsten had initiated a conversation with Danny, which later involved Jeffrey Steiner, one of our other attorneys and another co-founder, with regards to starting a crowdfunding campaign for FAIR, to which Torsten gave his full agreement to launch the campaign via an email blast to the co-op members, committing to making a video about the campaign as well. Coincidentally, 5 days later, since the drivers in our FAIR Leaders group knew that all we needed was $56,000 for the insurance to get the ball rolling, they themselves proposed an internal crowdfunding campaign, which had never been mentioned in the group chat nor to any of the leaders before. Seeing as the drivers were encouraging us to do it, we went ahead and came up with an email campaign that Torsten had approved and committed to making a video on, as you can see here. We then set up the crowdfunding page on the FAIR Co-op website, as displayed here. In a conversation with Edward, Torsten said that we should make a crowdfunding video that he would promote. Unfortunately, Torsten's tune changed shortly after making the commitment on March 26th, where he expressed concern with having to handle potential pushback from the drivers, also raising the matter of an additional payment to him for the first time, we had never discussed any additional payments with him. We responded that we would handle the communications with all the drivers, so he wouldn't have to do any of the heavy lifting at all. And that although we never promised him the $10,000 he was asking, we were happy to compensate him once the money was raised or through the profits after our successful launch. To clarify, the only conversation that ever took place beforehand was where he was promised a much larger compensation after we actually raised money from investors, with no specific amounts or timelines ever being discussed. So a day before the April Fool's protests in San Francisco, we decided to support the organizing general's meeting by sponsoring it with 10 pizzas at a personal cost to AJ and Danny of about $120. On April 12th, Torsten again started making demands for payment and accused us of spending $500 on pizza rather than paying him, while backtracking on his written promises to do the video. Then on May 3rd, after we shared the final crowdfunding video with him that we had paid Yoshi for, and after him previously telling us to create a video, Torsten sent a message threatening no crowdfunding, not from drivers, not from the general public, and not even from the hashtag Drivers Unite movement, which he had nothing to do with, unless he got paid $10,000. He demanded we remove him from the video and to unpublish the video. At that point, he stated that the re-edited video was okay to be published on Kickstarter or other crowdfunding websites, but not sent to his drivers. But then he changed his tune again, setting a deadline for payment of August 7, 2024. And this wasn't the first time he had tried to act as a gatekeeper for the drivers who he had signed up. In an email from May 8th, he adds another demand that we secure $200,000 in investments if we are to use his name, contacts, drivers he recruited, again attempting to act as a gatekeeper for those drivers who had already signed up with the co-op, further claiming our only value was the drivers that he recruited, that the apps could be purchased for $2,500 online, and threatening to take away the drivers and start a co-op himself with the same drivers. This comment was extremely disrespectful to the vision and the mission for a number of reasons. First of all, any scripts for apps that you buy online for $2,500 typically have multiple backdoors built into them. So at all times, all the data is being stolen, whether it's the credit card information, the personal or banking information of our drivers and customers, etc. Second, the only way that investors will take the app seriously is if we own the intellectual property and built it from the ground up. Since we actually built this app, integrating it with the AI was a breeze and something that we could have never pulled off with an off-the-shelf app. And that integration is groundbreaking. Then, on May 9th, he published a video announcing his frustrations with FAIR and his immediate intention of going to San Francisco to meet with investors to start his own rideshare co-op. As he well knew, any such action would be a violation of the non-compete clause of our agreement. We've shared the video here for you to watch if you'd like.
Now, the other big reason, which I haven't mentioned so far, is I'm also meeting tomorrow night for dinner in San Francisco with investors. Personally, I can share this with you because I've been pushing hard for 5 years, trying to help the Canadians get the co-op going. And I've been rather disappointed. I've been rather disappointed by two gentlemen that made a lot of promises. And I've put in a lot of hours. I've put in 5 hours of 5 years, not 5 hours, wishful thinking. 5 years of hard work to help build the co-op. What I do well is recruiting. I'm a salesperson. I know how to recruit. And I don't want to give up on the dream of starting a co-op or a new rideshare company. I will not even remotely think of throwing my weight behind any new company unless there's talk about maybe $5-6 million because licenses and insurance, if they roll out of Minnesota, I'd like to get in there. I still hope that the co-op's going to come through, the fair co-op. I hope these guys don't let me down. But I don't tolerate bullshit. You know, when people have made promises and people said that they would deliver on thing and deliver on investors, they need to deliver. I delivered on bringing in 50,000 drivers. I delivered. My part of the bargain has been done, right? It wasn't talk. It was all, I walked the walk. I delivered the people to the co-op. They need to deliver the investors. If they cannot in the next few weeks, I will most likely get involved and try. And I emphasis on try because this is not set in stone. This is not, no decisions on this yet. But I'd like to try and personally get a rideshare company going. Either register a company or do it in form of a co-op. I think co-op is definitely the best way to go, the best. Although, as I found out, it's not too easy to raise investors when it comes to co-ops, because 50% of the co-op is really owned by drivers, by the gig workers, and only 50% can be made available to venture capitalists or angel investors, right? And I have a lot of history there. I raised $25 million back in 2002 for my national apartment rental company, teaming up with rent.com. And so I have a lot of knowledge on raising monies for my own projects, handshake.com, rentwave.com, westsiderentals.com, and also raising money for other friends that entered the .com field. And I still have a lot of contacts in the arena of West Coast angels. There are many, all the way from San Diego, LA, right up to San Francisco. It's a group called the West Coast Angels. So I will meet up with a couple of these angel investors and say, listen, this is what I have. I've developed over the last 10 years this following worldwide. I was hoping it would be fair, FAIR, co-op. I'm still going to give them a chance to come through. They still owe me money. They need to deliver on their promise of investors, right? What was put out there is that they wanted to do crowdfunding. I've done crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is difficult. Crowdfunding is making something happen. It's almost like GoFundMe, where you have got to get hundreds, if not thousands, of people on board with little numbers everybody's making. And investors don't like that. Investors don't like if there are too many hundreds or too many thousands of people involved in the pie, right? And I strongly believe that crowdfunding is not the way to go when you want to start a new rideshare company, right? Turning around and asking the drivers for money to fund a co-op goes against everything I've discussed with these directors in the last 5 years. I'm not for that, and I've made myself crystal clear that if they want to go down that road of crowdfunding, I'm pulling out. I'll pull the brakes, and I'll end it right there and then legally. I'm not going to take any shit, right? I'm getting up early tomorrow morning, heading out at 4:30 a.m., hitting the road and going up to San Francisco. There's going to be a lot of driving, a lot of meetings, and I want to get this done because you got to prove that to yourself, right? I got to prove that, hey, I tried everything I could with law firms. I tried everything I could in trying to get investors on board and get a new company going. These guys need to deliver. I've put in 5 years of work. I've recruited 50,000 drivers. I want to see the investors. If I don't see the investors, I will go and get the investors. I've done it many times. The question is, like, do I really go and get involved in rideshare? I want to let you know that these scripts, these rideshare scripts, these food delivery scripts, they're all out there. They only cost about $2,500 to $5,000. Gone are the days when you have to get all your custom programmers and write everything yourself. These days you can buy scripts. And even if you were operating on a script, a rideshare script, and got a rideshare company going for 6 months, and you generate enough money to then write your own proprietary software.
Then, on May 23rd, Torsten published a short video titled, "Fare better get their act together in the next 30 days, or it is farewell to fare. Hashtag 5 years work, no money." This video has been seen by thousands of people to date, resulting in a major negative backlash. Now, while we are all hoping and working towards great revenue and returns from the co-op, the tone, demands, and damaging statements are not commiserate with the vision, the mission, and the passion behind the co-op. And you can see the video that he created here.
I have worked for 5 years to help build out the driver base, close on to 50,000 drivers for Fair Co-op. And this video goes out to Danny and AJ. Don't test me, my friends. Don't test me. Right? We have certain commitments. I have stuck to mine. You stick to yours. You have 30 days to get your act together. Otherwise, things will change very quickly and very radically. I have no time for people breaking their agreements with me.
We would also like to address his latest video from May 23rd and his false claims. Fare has never received the details of 50,000 drivers as he claims. To date, only about 8,000 drivers have fully registered with all their information. And we made mention of this before. We never made any commitments to pay him the $10,000 he is demanding from us, while setting arbitrary deadlines and making threats to attempt to shut us down, shut you down, shut all of us down. As an equal co-founder with an equal number of shares to every other expert co-founder of Fair Co-op, Torsten is the only one who has received any compensation to date, while all the other co-founders have invested either their time or their money or both for the cause of the drivers. Unfortunately, Torsten has made several false claims in his public videos to drivers, where he's claiming to be an investor in Fare and to have sold his muscle car to invest in Fare. To date, we have not received a single dollar in investment from him, and we welcome him to provide any proof to the contrary so the drivers can see. Now, with respect to his claims of broken agreements, aside from the 2 agreements that we have already shared and talked about in this video, no other agreements were signed with Torsten, and the only agreement that was broken was by him after his initial written agreement to promote the crowdfunding video without requiring any compensation in advance. We have made every effort to maintain a positive road forward with Torsten. However, he has veered far off course and added completely unnecessary and unreasonable pressure on us, hindering our ability to move things along in the right direction. While he told us he believed in the vision, that he was dedicated to the mission, based on his tone, false promises, and increasing demands, we can now see that he is motivated by self-interest and is willing to renege on promises and commitments he's made with all of us. Now, this goes entirely against the vision of the co-op and the spirit of everyone's time, effort, and let alone the massive financial contributions of AJ, Danny, and the other co-founders. And most importantly, of our drivers who've committed their time, their energy, their money as well. But when AJ, Danny, the whole team have rubbed themselves to the edge of bankruptcy, putting everything they have, all the time they have into this, and to see it being an attempt to have it torn away with just one video for a small piece of money, for something that for everybody here we're trying to give to you, the drivers, is both disheartening and disappointing. The reason we've shared all this with you is so that you have the opportunity to understand the full breadth of the situation, to understand the part that you play in this, and that's to have a voice. The co-op is designed for you guys to have a voice, the most important voice. So after we've shared all this with you, we put it to you and want to hear your thoughts and get your feedback and your direction on what the best move is to make co-op happen, to make our local driver co-op everywhere in Grant